everybody, this is Almir. It's Geek Time again. It's time for another episode of Hanging Out with the Software Engineer. This is actually the last episode of Season 1. The subject or the topic in this episode is kids and programming. I will talk a little bit about how important the programming is, or the concepts of programming are for kids, whether they become software engineers in the future or not. And the second part of this episode, I will interview my son. It is a totally unexpected thing. He was not prepared for it. I wanted a more natural responses to my questions, and it is a quick interview. Let's get started. Exposing the concepts of programming to kids is very important. It's a different way of thinking. Kids will learn how to break a complex problem into smaller components and analyze it and then put it back together. MIT came up with a programming language called Scratch, and I will show you here a game that my son made where he learned the concepts of a for loop, concept of if conditions, concept of events. So for example, in this game, the maze game, first he had to come up with the background, add it into the game. Then he had to program the person here. For example, if I click on the run, I can move this cat that is the object in this game. He had to program the if conditions or events. If the left key is pressed, if up and down or right is pressed, then you move the cat on X, Y, and axis appropriately. So understanding the X, Y axis is something they have to learn while programming this game. He also had to figure out how not to walk through the walls. So he had to detect the color of the wall, and if that color is touched, there's an event being triggered. It will bounce that cat in the opposite direction. So if you look here on the right-hand side, when the green flag is pressed, that triggers an event to run the program. There's an X and Y position that it is the starting position of this cat. Then you have the forever loop, and within that forever loop, you have if conditions to drive the press of the left key, right key, up key, and the down key. But now when the left key is pressed, you can see here that you move the position on the x-axis -4 points. And the simulation of the person changing, see how the legs are moving? That's really multiple costumes. So when the key is pressed, the costume changes to emulate the person walking. So these are all the little concepts, basically concept of a loop, concept of an event. When you reach the end, the person says something. If you go to the bottom of the program here, you can see here when the goal or the end is touched, the person says, I won for 2 seconds, and then it plays a sound, I won. So there's a message on the screen, and there's a sound that says, I won, and he actually recorded himself saying, I won. So these are all the concepts that kids should learn at the early age, how to break a complex problem into smaller pieces that a computer can understand, and then programming in whatever choice of language you choose. For example, in this case, my son was doing the Scratch programming. So going now, let's jump into the interview where I interview my son. I'm asking him a few simple questions. He's totally unprepared. I actually wanted more natural responses to my questions. And hopefully you enjoy that interview. Here's the interview with my son.
Hello everybody, this is Hanging Out with the Software Engineer. We have a guest today. Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Doris.
What's your middle name?
Dean.
Last name?
Mustafa.
Okay, thank you very much. How old are you, Doris?
10.
Okay, so do you know why you're here today?
No.
Okay, but you will find out very soon. First question, you can relax, you don't have to be afraid. This is just a show called Hanging Out with the Software Engineer. Can you please tell us what is computer programming? What do you think what that means? What is programming?
It's a special type of language that you can use to make websites and get followers and likes, and you can make video games out of it.
Okay. Can you name 2 programming languages?
Java and Python.
Oh, cool. But have you heard of a language called C#?
Yeah, I heard of it.
You heard of it. What about JavaScript?
Yeah.
You heard about JavaScript?
I know JavaScript because I remembered I went on this school website called Khan Academy, and it teaches you how to do JavaScript.
Oh, cool. And what kind of stuff you can do with JavaScript?
You can make games, you can make websites, you can make like little shapes and little like animals and that stuff.
That's cool.
People.
What about Python? What can you do with Python?
Python, you can make websites.
And
Really,
you can even make games. Some people make games with
really
Python.
good games with Python. It's really cool because on Python it's better, I think, for making games.
Okay, so if I showed you on the computer a program, would you be able to tell apart what is Java program and what is Python?
Probably.
Probably. Why? Because you've seen me on my screen.
I've seen Python before and I've seen Java before.
Oh, okay, cool. That's cool. Why do you think programming is important?
Programming is important because without programming, there could be no video games.
No, that's cool.
I mean, I'm a geek at video games. I love video games.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this show called Hanging Out with the Software Engineer.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. As I said, this is the last episode of Season 1. I'll be preparing the episodes for Season 2 very soon. But in the meantime, you can watch my software engineering tips episodes, short episodes, and on the same channel, on the YouTube channel that I have. Keep geeking out, and I'll see you in Season 2.